You mentioned psychedelics earlier. So which I told you we'd come back to it. So in your opinion, which is scarier, DMT or salvia?
What do you mean?
Like, if you're someone who has never taken any psychedelics, maybe you haven't even like smoking weed or anything, and you're just a complete like beginner, which one would probably like which one would probably like freak you out the most? DMT or salvia?
Salvia, probably.
Yeah, I agree. I talked to someone though who was very adamantly opposed. They said, "No, man, dude, DMT. That's scary, man. I don't mess with DMT, dude." I'm like, first of all, DMT is a chemical that's already inside of us, so you're essentially just allowing it to be active. It's like taking melatonin. In fact, it's made by the same gland of the brain, but it's like when you take artificial melatonin supplements, all you're doing is just like enhancing the melatonin that's already in you, and just like giving something new to react. You're just stimulating that essentially. So when you take DMT, you're essentially just awakening the DMT you already have from your chakras, and you're just like giving it a fresh like kickstart. Um, so that's more natural. So I feel like on a subconscious level, like on a just instinctually, the body kind of knows more what to do with it, as opposed to salvia. We don't really know much about it. I'm sure it's plant based, but there's no link to anything in our bodies with salvia, so it's basically just a completely foreign thing. So I feel like it's more of a shock on the system, and especially for a first time, be like, whoa, what's this? And especially because it comes on so strong. I mean, I know both of them are comparable because they have about the same duration and the same effects at low and high doses, and so it's kind of you can astral project from either and interact with other species or whatever. But I feel like with DMT, it's more of a personalized experience. I feel like it's more of just like a condensed version of like maybe shrooms or something, where it's a journey inward. It's a journey deeper into yourself. I mean that's the case with shrooms at least, but with DMT it's like that, but you're going outward to a place that's in you. If that makes any sense, it's like you're going to interact with these creatures, these beings that are a part of you essentially, and it's just like you're just essentially being elevated to a frequency so as to be able to see, hear, and communicate with them, that you wouldn't be able to do sober. And so I feel like it's more of a personal connection as opposed to with salvia. It's basically just a wild ride. You have no control over what's going on. Pedals to the metal, and you're in the passenger seat. It's not about you at all. You're just like a witness basically. You can be a piece of cloth in the Andromeda galaxy, and for those 5 minutes, it feels like a lifetime, and you're convinced that you've always been a cloth and you always will be a cloth, and existence is pain. You don't remember ever being a human. It's just you can encounter hostile entities sometimes. I've never heard one account of somebody encountering a hostile entity with DMT. They're usually friendly. Almost always friendly from what I hear. It's just yeah, it's from my experience, from other people's experience. It's just like it's just all around. I mean, if you can get past the takeoff, like the aspect of astral projection itself, I understand is scary, but everything other than that is very like peaceful and like it's a series of positive emotions. As with salvia, you never know what you're gonna get. It's a wild card. It's the Tower of Terror basically, and it's so like fast paced, and it's just like it's no holds barred. So I feel like that's much scarier, you know. But do you have any input on that whole thing?
No, I don't.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I have no input. I guess it's something I learned during health, learned about drugs and everything.
Oh, wait, so you're not, so,
Project on them.
none of this that you're speaking from is from experience?
No.
Oh. Well, that whole thing was for nothing then.
It was very fun to do.
Have you ever taken, like, LSD then even? Because that's, you know, entry level.
No, but I have had friends who did. I want to.
I mean, everyone knows someone who did it, I feel, but...
Yeah.
See, one...
Not what you said what they were like, but I want mine to, like, open.
Yeah, see, one thing you gotta do, there's a lot of, yeah, I you know, it's probably not any news to you, but there's a lot of idiots in the world, right? There's a lot of fools amongst us. It's common knowledge at this point, but, huh?
They're like, I want to see pretty colors.
Yeah, well, it goes further than that, but the point is, when these fools get their hands on something as sacred and spiritual as psychedelics, and there's nothing sacred or spiritual about these people, you know, it becomes a problem. And one of only a handful of things is going to happen, and especially since those are illegal. I mean, salvia is actually legal, surprisingly, in like half of the states, which I'm like, of all the psychedelics, why salvia? That's not entry level at all. But at any point, in any case, you know, especially since psychedelics in general are illegal, at least in the United States and most countries, you know, and there's very little, there's no funding being done on researching them, so we know virtually nothing. Everything that we know about psychedelics is all either from personal experience or from someone else's experience, which is significantly less reliable. And so, you know, since it's illegal and there's no funding going on for scientific research. So, in other words, if you look up any of these things on like Wikipedia, you're going to get a few paragraphs, and it's probably going to be biased, you know, and that's it. And so it creates a sense of curiosity then of like, oh man, I want to, you know, trip balls or whatever, you know, get whatever. I like you said, yeah, I want to see pretty colors, and just like, well, oh, I hear you, like everything gets wavy and it just like gets like real weird and stuff like that, like, and it doesn't help, there's all these videos on YouTube and stuff like, you know, this simulates the visuals of being high or whatever, and it's like, it makes it seem like all like fun and, you know, carefree and all that, so, you know, then they go, and obviously since there's no like information, since it's so taboo, nobody ever tells you about like, you know, dosage or like proper procedure or anything like that. So you could just be an idiot and just like take way too much LSD by accident, you know, thinking it's a normal amount, because, you know, a serving's like, I don't know, a couple of micrograms, like 5 micrograms. You know how much a microgram is? That's so little. Like a gram of sugar, there's I think 1,000 micrograms in a gram. A gram of sugar is a little granule. It's not very much, you know? So if you take a gram of LSD or even like a milligram or something, that's not going to be fun, you know, especially if you don't know what to expect. And so, you know, the point is, you're going to make some crucial mistake at some point. It's typically just too high of a dose, and you're going to not be prepared. You're going to be scarred for life, and then you're going to just live your whole life thinking, oh, you know, drugs are bad, and my experience scarred me, and, you know, nobody ever do this. This is why it needs to be illegal, all that. And so it's like, no, it's not about the substance. It's about the user. It's very much about the user, and you just have to learn. Yeah, there's this great channel on YouTube, Psyched Substance, where you can pretty much learn everything you need to know about all that kind of stuff, and he just emphasizes over and over again, set and setting is all it's what's very important. There's very specific things that you're supposed to use alone, and then there's things you're supposed to use with other people. Obviously, if you have no prior experience with any psychedelics, and I don't consider weed a psychedelic, then you know, you should have a trip sitter, you know, present, and the first time you astral project as well. But you know, so if you take LSD, especially too high of a dose by yourself, it's not going to be fun at all. You did that could end very badly. You need to have someone with you to like calm you down, you know, to like supervise you basically, because otherwise you could just like go outside and think you're still in your room and like I don't know, jump into a body of water and drown, or you know, and you think you're like found like a giant, you know, scoop of ice cream or something that you're rolling around in, and really it's just cold water or whatever. You know, I don't know. But the point is, especially, I mean, at that high of a dose, that kind of stuff happens, and so that's why you need a trip sitter to make sure you don't like actually get hurt, or you know, walk into traffic, or you know, get lost and like wake up in a field somewhere, you know, 10 miles from your house or something. But it's like, um, you know, I mean, if it's just a low dose, that's probably not a concern, but still, it just for emotional support, if nothing else, because it's also about your mindset going into it. However you feel, whatever emotion you're feeling when you drop tab, so to speak, is what's going to just get intensified 1,000-fold during the experience. You know, so you need to make sure that you're in a stable sense of mind. You know, because otherwise, if you're just doing the whole thing as a joke, the joke's going to be on you very quickly. You know, that's just the element that the forces are going to pick up, and it's just going to turn into a joke on you, and it's not going to be fun, and you're not going to learn anything except not to do that again. And so, yeah, basically, LSD is one of those things where you should have a trip sitter, especially if you're new to it. A very important tip: never do that at night or when you've been up for a while, because it lasts as long as caffeine. You know, 8 to 12 hours. So it would have you'd have to reserve the whole day for that. It shouldn't be a day when you have anything else planned. It should be like you're just sitting around at home. You're either by yourself or you have like a friend over or something. The point is there's nobody that's gonna like stress you out. Nobody that's not in on it. Um, and it's like, you know, you got the whole day. You don't have to go to work or school, or you're not obligated to leave the house. Essentially, you don't have like any important pressing things. You don't have any like conference calls to take or any kind of like business things or whatever, and you can just like relax. You know, you'd want to drop tab like maybe 2 hours after you wake up, and then you should be all right. You know, and if you have like a friend with you or something, someone who's in on it, you know, who's, you know, gonna, you know, support you or whatever, you know, that's fine. And you know, again, especially if you're new to that stuff, you shouldn't like you don't dive in head first. You know, you got to dip your feet in the water. So like your first time on LSD, you should probably, you know, just have fun. Just like watch some TV. You know, go for a walk, not by yourself, but you know, like you go for a walk, read a book. You know, just eat some food. You know, get some fresh air, whatever. Just do some like, you know, just some nice pleasant activities. Don't like watch something on YouTube that's like, you know, warning, this video will change your life or whatever, like, because that kind of stuff, when you're sober, you can just laugh at it, but if you're like really tripping on some kind of psychedelic, especially if you're new to it, you're not going to be laughing. You're going to get scared, and you know, things will turn dark very quickly, because it's very important that you protect a positive state of mind throughout the whole thing, because if you let your mind wander to somewhere negative for too long and you don't bring it back, eventually that's the direction that the trip's going to take, you know, and you don't want to have a bad trip, because then you could get like a flashback or something 3 days later of like, you know, you're in class and then you just like turn the page on your notebook and all of a sudden you see like a demonic clown's face or something, and it's like, whatever, and you let out it's whatever, and everybody just pauses and looks at you, and you just like go back and, you know, just lower your head in shame or whatever, you know. So you don't want that to happen. But yeah.
I wouldn't be able to take LSD. The reason is I have really bad paranoia now sometimes. And my subconscious can get like really dark. So I have to.
Yeah, you'd have to. You don't necessarily have to get rid of it altogether, but you have to at least be in control of it. You have to essentially realize that you have the power. Your conscious mind has the power, to control how you're feeling for the most part, and that, you are your own master and all of that. And I mean, most of that can be achieved through meditation, honestly. If you just meditate, um, you can kind of clear your mind and kind of just like let any negative energy just evaporate and just become a state of calm. And if at any point you feel, I mean, there's that advice going around, especially with sex substance and such, of like if you get like if you're experiencing a bad trip, or you're experiencing anxiety with astral projection or whatever or anything, just start breathing and focus on your breaths. Count your breaths. Just breathe slowly in through the nose and out through the mouth, and just count every time you breathe in and breathe out. And by the time you count to like 20, you'll notice that you feel calm, probably. I mean, the things around you are probably a lot less intense, and you may not be able to get back to that state, but the point is, it's like the emergency kill switch, essentially, is if you can do that, or just even if you start counting, but especially with the breathing, because slowing your breathing is typically slowing your heart rate, it's lowering your blood pressure, it's just, it's cooling your body, that's typically a safe bet. But that in combination with the counting, if it's the breaths that you're counting, or maybe count the seconds that if you make sure you breathe in for a good 5 seconds and breathe out for a good 5 seconds, and you do that like 10 times, you should be set then. So that's another thing to keep in mind is, there technically are ways to calm down, but the point is you want to try to make sure that you're calm going into it if at all possible. But, with all of this being said, this really segues perfectly into our next question. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be? Huh?
Italy.
What was that?
Italy.
Italy, why is that?
Italy.
Why Italy?
Because it says that my family last name originated from Italy, and then they migrated to south of Italy, and some went to the Philippines, and some went to America, and then she went down.
I bet it did. Well, that's like at least probably half of the people I ask, where they want to live. Probably at least half of their answers have something to do with their genetics, their ancestry. Well, my great-grandfather so-and-so was apparently from, here, or, my last name can be traced back to this origin or something like that, and so, it's like, that's nice, but, it's kind of looking for something original, but, whatever. Since it's so common of a response, I just have to take it, but, yeah.
Also, I tend to attract Italian to my life, and I gave up. I gave into it. I'm like, I'm just going to take Italian class, and
make that your foreign
just
language.
have all these Italian friends, date all these Italians. Probably join a mafia because they won't leave me alone.
Pizza and pasta every day, right? Yeah.
Majority,
it's the
Sicilian.
Yeah. But hey, just out of curiosity, just by looking at me, can you guess which two countries are the most prevalent in my genetic makeup?
This is a hard one, actually.
Yeah. I mean, I know the mustache probably throws things off, but yeah.
Can you give me a hint?
Huh? A hint? Well, they're both in Europe.
Can it be Russian?
No.
No? I could go on. Definitely not Polish. Oh, darn it. Are you German?
That's one of them. I'm
German.
half German, I believe. Nazi and half Jewy ancestry.
No, seriously, like, her grandparents hated, like, her mom because she was Jewish. So, like, she chose to go with her Jewish faith and, like, had her curly hair substring and everything.
Well, I'm just gonna tell you. So one of them's German. The other one actually is Polish. I just found it funny how like one of the first things he said was, "Well, it's definitely not Polish." Okay.
You don't know. Okay, you don't look like any of the Polish people that I have met.
My grandmother was very, very Polish. So.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she died when I was like 2 years old, so I never got to meet her, basically. But yeah, that's in my genes.
That's amazing. I don't meet a lot of like brunette, Polish guys because I mostly blonde or dirty blonde.
Yeah, like PJ Dreams ASMR, basically.
That's crazy. That's cool. It's a rare find, I guess, in my school.
Yeah, I think the mustache throws people off. It makes people think I'm like Hispanic or something. You know, like Puerto Rican or Dominican or something.
No, I was like, you can't pass for Latino. I couldn't see it.
Yeah, everybody refuses to accept the fact. A lot of people refuse to accept the fact that I'm monolingual. I mean, even me, I really wish I could speak other language. I've tried many times, but I end up, like I said, just giving up in frustration because it's too hard. I'm like, oh, I'm going to master this language in 3 days or whatever, and then I start, it's like, all right, I learn, like, you know, a few sentences, and then I just get frustrated. I'm like, this is just too much. It's too much. And so,
I used to know French.
And then it's not gone.
Yeah. And then, I know Spanish because...
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, household.
Yeah, I wanted to learn German for so long because I'm half German, basically, you know, and it's like, and I know my mother will talk about it sometimes, and, you know, just be like, well, you know, in Germany, whatever, and, you know, I'd be like, I want to learn German. And another thing, too, is German's such, like, an aggressive-sounding language, like, just the, I don't know, like, if you watch, like, a documentary in German or something, you'll get scared by it. It's like, the stereotype of Germans, at least in my experience, is just like that they're yelling all the time and they always sound angry. And it's like, that means good job, you know, or whatever. It's like, I want to like legitimately learn German just so that I can yell like compliments at people in German and let them think I'm mad at them or something. I'll just like yell, "It's a nice day" in German, and it'll be like, you know, whatever. Just like point at the sky and be like, "Sunny day," and let them think I'm like threatening them that my God's gonna smite them or something. But what were you saying?
You know what? I can't remember.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like, I had it, and then you're talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. I tend to go on rants sometimes. That's kind of another thing about this podcast, too, is that, in case you haven't already noticed, I'm much more prone to, like, interrupting and, like, you know, overriding guests and maybe, like, you know, very mildly making fun of them or something like that if it's on the podcast, because that's part of the persona. I take a lot of inspiration from, like, Eric Andre, for example, and also from other podcasts like The Official Podcast, the Saftacast, What Say You podcast, etc. So those all kind of tend to be like aggressive kind of things where it's just like everybody fighting to be the one with the talking cameo and just like undermining each other's opinions and proving their superiority or something. So And you just combine that with my personality, and it creates the stew that is this podcast.
Like, I remember British I was going to say that I asked my teacher if Spanish, French, and Italian are the love languages. What does that mean? Languages like German, or
What do you say? French, Spanish, and Italian?
Yeah.
Yeah, not German.
It's because German is considered like a trash language.
I don't know. I listened to I listened to some German ASMR one time, and that was pretty cool.
Was it romantic?
Huh?
Was it romantic?
Oh, no. I mean, it was like, you know, an attractive girl, you know, doing the German accent and stuff. But yeah, no, it was kind of aggressive, but I think she was just embracing that really, and it was a pleasant experience though. I got tingles, so that's really what matters at the end of the day. But if you could be any kind of fruit, what would you be?
Watermelon.
Oh, why is that?
Or a green.
Well, you gotta pick one.
A green grape because they're sour.
That's a very Italian answer. Yeah, I forget what I was gonna say. So, how much would you pay for an 8-pack of pocket-sized elephants? $20. It costs more than that for the scientific process of creating pocket-sized elephants. $20. It costs more than that for the scientific process of creating pocket-sized elephants. Much less 8 of them. That's only $250 per elephant. I'm pretty sure it would cost more than $250 an elephant to make that. These aren't stuffed animals. These aren't plush little things. These are actual elephants. What?
No, I meant like the little toy elephant plastic things. Like, you know how they make little plastic
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean like living elephants. Like they're actual elephants. The only difference from them and a wild elephant is their size. They can fit in your pocket. That's all. That's the only difference. Other than that, they're an elephant.
I would pay a worth of a SeatGeek app at you know.
I didn't catch that.
Like the worth of a sponsor from SeatGeek.
Oh, sponsor.
Yeah.
Man, I wish this podcast was sponsored. I wish this podcast was sponsored. That would be so much fun. I would love to just like randomly interject, you know, like I'll ask you a question and then like, you know, you'll be like 2 sentences into answering it and then I'll just like start talking over you and say, so this episode of the City of Infinity podcast is sponsored by, you know, whatever. And,
well, you can do that. The thing is, you have to start small and then
yeah, or maybe I'll have it in my mind to like make a prompt to kind of like segue into that, like to promote like whatever it's for, and like I'll ask you a question like, you know, do you like food? Yes. Well, dude, you know, but do you not like cooking or whatever? Like, well, then you should try the new service that, you know, makes cooking a lot easier, you know, or whatever or something, and you know, it'll just be like an infomercial out of nowhere.
Oh my god. No, I was just gonna say you could be the one to reach out saying like, hey, I wanna like get my followers to go to your account and like buy stuff and stuff like that.
I wouldn't know who to reach out to though. I'd want to wait. I I'd be curious to see who would reach out to me, like what kind of company would say, like, yes, I want to be affiliated with this podcast, you know. But